Hey, everybody, it's Will, and I'm very excited today to have Karen Hoskin on the phone. Karen and her husband Bryce co-founded Montanya Distillers, and they're in Crested Butte, Colorado. And they started in 2008 in Silverton and moved a few years later to Crested Butte. But so 10 years in, congratulations, Karen, on 10 years of doing something I know you love, and thanks for taking the time to do this tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So, okay, take me back to the start. What prompted you all to get a rum distillery started out in Silverton, Colorado back in 2008?
Well, I was a professional graphic designer and web designer for about 12 years with my own company. And I literally woke up one morning on vacation and I said to my husband, I was like, I can't do it anymore. I was pulling all-nighters and working long hours back when I had small children at home, and I was building everybody else's kind of beautiful entrepreneurial dream. And at the end of every project, I would hand it all over and it would be theirs. And I would start again with some other customer and, do their website, do their logo, do their marketing campaigns, or design their trade show booths or whatever. And it was fun and I loved the work, but I just really wanted to keep something at the end of the day. Like I wanted to use all those skills towards something of my own. And we just happened to be at a moment in time where his company was doing really well and could support us if I sent off all my customers and said, I'm done. And so it was really my love of rum that took that direction of graphic design and brand building and led me into having a rum distillery. I was at that time when I had that epiphany, I was on a beach in Belize, and there's, not fabulous rum in Belize, but there's good, solid rum in Belize. And we were drinking Guatemalan rum, and then we went to Guatemala, and I came to understand this mountain tradition of rum distilling in Guatemala. And I've been a huge rum fan for about 30 years of my life. I had my first good rum on a beach in India, of all places, and I have been a fan of the spirit for a very long time and have kind of become a connoisseur at that point. 10 years ago, I'd really found my favorites and could tell you a lot about how they were made. And my husband said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to make rum. And 4 months later, we opened the doors of a distillery. And luckily, he had this other company that was taking most of his full-time energy and attention, but he was able to really help me with a lot of the elements of, plumbing and designing kind of how the distillery worked, things that are not so much in my wheelhouse. And then about 4 years ago, he came on full time with Montanya, and he's been part of the company ever since. So, it's been a wild ride, and we've grown a lot in the last 10 years. We're now shipping rum to 44 states and overseas to Spain and Italy and Germany and the UK and Singapore. And so it's been a crazy go of things, but we love it, and it's the most fun I've ever had doing anything. And at the end of the day, it's mine. I get to keep it. So
that's fantastic. That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm okay. I am blown away. I want to do this to 4 months later, you open your doors?
Yep. I know. What? It's crazy.
How did, it seems like I don't know enough about distilleries. It seems like there'd just be so much time to plan, buy equipment, and tell me about that. And I know you mentioned earlier before we started recording, you were just off the phone with an investor. So did you go get investors right away, or how did that all work?
No, not right away. Not for about 5 years. 10 years ago, there was not such a groundswell of craft distilling in the United States. We were one of the first, probably 5 craft distillers to come online in Colorado. There weren't very many nationwide. So all of our process was really quick. We applied for our TTB permit, which is the Tax and Trade Bureau. That's the big licensing federal entity for distilleries. And we applied for our state, licensing, and we just, it was a lot of paperwork. And I was pretty used to doing paperwork, and so was my husband at that point. We were not scared off by paperwork. So we did a lot of that, and then we did a lot of research, and we pretty quickly honed in on what type of still we wanted to use. And I went to Maine to visit a small winery in Maine that was using the still and distilling some brandies. And I got to see the still operating in person and check it out and decide that, yes, this was the direction that we wanted to go. And within 6 weeks, we had a hand-hammered, beautiful copper still from Portugal, coming off a truck direct from the family makers in rural Portugal. So it really was a lot of just shoulder to the wheel at that point. I kept my day job for a long time, more than a year. My husband had his other day job. Really what we had to do was find a place. And I think the biggest challenge for a lot of distillers is finding physical space that meets their needs and the requirements of the law. And we found this incredible old, the bordello back at, the late 1800s. And it had 4-foot thick stone walls. And so the biggest issue in distilling is fire code. And, we had 4-hour firewalls on this building. There was no concern about having to put in a sprinkler system or having to deal with all those issues that our peers deal with. So we found space quickly. We rented it. We didn't have to do a whole lot of renovation. And we, out of the gate, I probably put $50,000 in out of my own pocket. And it wasn't until about 5 years later when we were starting to add another still and grow the business and move it and go from 800 square feet to 5,800 square feet that I started to really feel the pinch of the cash flow and just not being able to do everything out of pocket. And so I went out and very quickly got 5 investors who came in and gave us the equity in the company that we needed to turn some cash around and start really building inventory finally. So now we have, floor to ceiling storage of barrels like you see in a lot of pictures of real distilleries. Back in the day, we had, we were like climbing over them to get to our bottling line, and our fermentation tanks were in the basement where there was a dirt floor. And it was, we started out really kind of by the seat of our pants. But you'd be surprised to know that looking now at what we have. From the very first day, we had a bar, a rum bar that we opened alongside the distillery, and that had never been done before. There were some distilleries that had tasting rooms that would serve you a cocktail, but we were really the pioneers of the craft cocktail bar, co-located with a craft distillery, and we've built that into quite an operation. We now have a full-scale 100-seat rum bar and restaurant, full-scale farm-to-table restaurant with a chef, and that's come a long way as well.
That's fantastic. So, so you open and you start distilling your rum. Where are you selling it? Are you just selling it to local restaurants, or do you have the ABC board out there? I know that everything just varies so much by state, but how are you making money?
Colorado is a beautiful state for being a craft distiller. We're not a control state, as they call it, where we have to interact with the state government to sell our spirits. Like there are 17 states in the U.S. where we can only sell to their government entity or via a distributor to their government entity. Colorado is a 3-tiered system, which means that we typically have to, use a supplier, can't be a distributor, can't be a restaurant. But in Colorado, we can be all 3 of those things. We can be our own self-distributor. We can have a bar and restaurant affiliated with our license. So for the first year, maybe year and a half, we were just selling rum out the door of our own tasting room. and bar, and we were and I was driving it around the state of Colorado. So I would load up my truck and with as many cases as I could fit and go drive around the state of Colorado until all those cases were gone, sold to liquor stores or bars, restaurants, and I wouldn't allow myself to come home until the truck was empty. So it was a big incentive, especially because I had I had an 6 and an 8-year-old when I started the company. So I wanted to get home, so I was just really motivated, would sell 40, 50 cases of rum out of the truck and then go home. And then about a year and a half in, we got a distributor in Colorado, big company, billion-dollar company that for whatever crazy reason took us on early on. I'll never forget walking through these big floor-to-ceiling, huge doors into these corporate offices and talking to these men in suits and just trying to sell them on my tiny little self-designed label on a bottle of rum. I mean, it was such a different operation back then. And for whatever reason, they took a chance on us and brought us into their portfolio as really maybe their first or second craft spirit. Now they probably have 50 different craft spirits that they represent. But they've stayed really committed to us all that time, and they sell a lot of rum in the state of Colorado, all over to different kinds of accounts like bars, restaurants, liquor stores, events. We do little mini bottles in the hotel rooms at the ski resorts and, some of the big resorts in Colorado Springs that people come from all over the world to visit. So it's been fun to partner with them because even though they're a big corporation, they've been really thankful to have this little crafty partner that is such a contrast to Cardi or, Jim Beam.
Yeah, for sure. I love this. I love driving around with the cases and not letting yourself come back until they were all. So that gave you. So you had to really put on your sales hat, I guess. Did you? I mean, so you moved from doing that, and you got a large distributor, but you were still in Silverton, right? So you were there for 3 years. Is that where you had the 800 square feet?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
3 years, and at some point we bought a box truck and parked it out front, and it was our warehouse. And we put a big logo across the side of it, and it was hilarious because you'd pull up and there'd be this box truck with our logo, and people would think that it would be like our delivery truck for the rum, but it didn't even have an engine in it.
Oh, that's great.
It just sat there on the side of the road and held rum until until we could sell it, or until the distributor started picking it up with their own truck. And they'd just back right up to the back of our box truck, and we'd run it across, and off it would go to a warehouse in Denver, and then go in 1,000 different directions. And then eventually we started picking up distribution with other companies in other parts of the country, so California, New England, and Texas. And
how did you do that? Was that you going out and selling it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just meet with, the brand manager or the vice president of a distributor and say, hey, this is the rum. I would taste them on it. I would talk about kind of our approach and who we are, and they would say yes or no. And there's really low risk for them in taking a chance on a new brand. But if you don't increase your sales very quickly, they can kind of boot you out the door.
How do you increase your sales quickly?
A lot of times what happens is we've built a customer fan base from people coming to Colorado. So right now in Crested Butte, with our bar and restaurant and tasting room where they can come and do a distillery tour, it's right in downtown Crested Butte. People come from Texas and Oklahoma and San Francisco and Boston and New York, and they get exposed to Montanya Distillers. And now when we say, oh yeah, we have distribution in New York or New Jersey or San Francisco, they can go home and go into their local liquor store and ask for it by name, and their liquor store owner will order it. And typically the owner will say, hey, maybe I'll throw some of this on the shelf since I have a customer that likes it. And then that's how we've grown. So it's really different from the traditional model. The traditional model of selling alcohol is that I call it fire hosing money, but you just fire hose money at distributors and sales reps. Give them all kinds of sales incentives and bonuses, and you line their pockets with cash for every time they sell a case or a bottle of your product. And then you provide incentives for the people on the other end of the transaction, the restaurant owner. You say, hey, if you buy 3 bottles, we'll give you a bottle. Those types of programs, that's typically how it happens. And I don't think that builds long-term customer loyalty. I think that only recruits the people who are looking for a deal. So I've taken a very different approach. It takes longer. It's a little harder, but it has worked to grow us double digits every year, which I think is about all we can probably handle anyway.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So you have sales reps, right? 'Cause I think you mentioned you were going to be next month in New York. Or tell me about how are you set up now? Do you have sales reps all over the country, how does that work?
I don't have sales reps all over the country that are working for me, although I often have brand ambassadors, so people who love our brand. Maybe they're a bartender or they are a special events coordinator or something, and so I can call on them in all kinds of different markets. I have one that lives down in Tucson. I have one that lives in Denver. I have one back east. I have one in Portland, Oregon, and I have one in Seattle and San Francisco. So I can call on them and say, hey, we want to do this event. Are you willing to come out and help? Or could you go and do a tasting for this restaurant that's interested in the product? And so what I do is I go to our distributors, and our distributors typically have, some of them only have 10 sales reps and they're small and boutique, and some of them have 120 sales reps. And like in the case of Texas, I might have to go from Austin to, San Antonio to Dallas to Houston and present to 100 or 120 sales reps at a time. And I train them. I do brand education. I help them to understand what the company is, what we do. We have one of the most deep and old sustainability philosophies of, many companies in the U.S., not to mention distilleries. We were definitely one of the first to really take the sustainability ethos deep within every action of our company every day. And I tell that story. I give context. I have a beautiful visual presentation that talks about our water and our sugarcane and our all of the decisions that we've made about things. And that's what we do. So, I'm working with hundreds of sales reps around the country, but they don't work directly for me.
Yeah, they work. Okay, gotcha. So you really, because that begs the question. I'm fascinated with, something that's changed a lot since you started. You mentioned there weren't that many, and particularly there in Colorado, probably everywhere 10 years ago, not quite so many craft distilleries as there are now. And there are more and more all the time. How do you help your brand stand out? What do you do to foster the brand and help it continue to be something that is top of mind for restaurants and bars and sales reps with distributors? And I know you travel and you said you do a lot of that, but what else do you do? Because there's just so many now. Right.
I do a lot of different things, and I do a lot of, throwing pasta at the wall and seeing what sticks too. And I've stopped doing a lot of things that I used to do that didn't really work. Probably the biggest thing I do is it's called brand education. So I'll go to San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York City, and I'll throw a lunch for 40 or 50 bartenders, and these are the tastemaker bartenders from the craft cocktail world, and I'll pick a central location and they can come and I'll provide them with cocktails and lunch, and in exchange they give me an hour of their time to tell them the story of the company. They get to meet me personally, which is really hard to do with, Jim Beam or even some of the bigger companies, big liquor companies. You don't ever get to meet the owner or the person who's making the spirit or who made all the decisions and designed the product. So I do a lot of that, and that's my most effective outreach. And then I also do a lot of cocktail events where we, have an opportunity to put the spirit into people's mouths, which also is really effective. So I go to rum festivals and I go to Tales of the Cocktail and all these kind of bigger events that are all focused on the cocktail world. And I also we have a PR team, and, we reach out to a lot of media and a lot of entities, bloggers and tastemakers that are online, and we send them samples, and I do interview conversations. We get great articles, reviews, product reviews that are written about us. That's a really big thing for people who are interested. So if someone says, gosh, I'm just getting interested in rum and I'm really interested in craft rum, and then they jump online and they start doing a Google search or looking in their networks. I want us to rise to the top of that. I want us to be the first American craft rum that sort of pops up in their search. So there's a lot of SEO and a lot of digital marketing and native marketing to take great articles that have been written about us and kind of push them to the top of the lists of the world. And winning awards has been huge for us. So we've won every significant award in the competitive world, San Francisco World Spirits, New York World Spirits, the World Rum Awards. We got American Craft Distiller at the American Distilling Institute in 2015. Best rum at the Miami Rum XP, which is their expert panel. So we just submit to different competitions and pretty much always come out with a gold or a silver or sometimes a best in class. So the rum itself is good enough to stand on its own, regardless of what kind of marketing I might be doing.
That's fantastic. Well, great product and great marketing. How do you make your rum so good?
It only has 4 ingredients, and those 4 ingredients are incredibly important. So we buy our sugarcane directly from farmers in Louisiana.
Why Louisiana?
It's the closest sugarcane crop to us in Colorado. So it's the highest latitude of sugarcane growing in the world. We, because we have a sustainability ethos and we're carbon offsetting every single shipment of sugarcane to us, it's great to bring it from close by. We used to get our sugarcane from Hawaii, and I must have had some sort of dream sequence, like premonition, but I had a feeling that they were not going to grow sugarcane anymore. And even when they did, it was hard for us to certify that what we were getting was the Hawaiian cane from the Hawaiian Islands, because it was being shipped to California and they wouldn't certify that it was American grown for us. So about 4.5 or 5 years ago, we switched over to Louisiana. We now know all these farmers in person. They come visit us in Colorado. We go visit them in Louisiana. They come with me sometimes to events and talk about how they grow our cane. It's milled on site in a mill that is 100% biomass operated. So the sugarcane fibers themselves are powering the mill, and they're being burned to heat the sugarcane juice when it's being boiled. And so it meets an incredibly high level of specs that I had for any partnership that we were going to entertain. And we love them. They're like the nicest people in the world, really, literally the sweetest, nicest people in the world. And they don't often get to interact with the end user of their sugarcane because it goes to the refinery and then it gets made into table sugar and it gets shipped to, North Carolina, but they don't ever get to meet you when you're spooning it into your coffee on your table. So we send them rum, they give it out to their friends. It's all a really fun relationship.
That's cool. Okay, so we got sugar. All right, what's next?
We have water, which is 60% of what is in any bottle of alcohol is water, and it's 80% of what goes into the making of any spirit. So we think choosing water is essential to a good spirit. The water that comes out of this aquifer here in the Rocky Mountains, 350 feet under our bottling facility, is a distiller's dream. It's like the most beautiful water you can imagine. It's percolated from snow melt and the springs of out under our mountains, and it goes down through the stone, so it's kind of mineralized and filtered naturally by the ground until it hits this aquifer about 350 feet under us. We pull it directly from there, from a well, so it doesn't go into the municipal water source. It doesn't get fluoridated and chlorinated, and so we don't have to deal with things that normal water suppliers put into water and normal distillers take out of water. So a lot of my peers in the rum world who are distilling in, Brooklyn or San Diego or Chicago, they have to reverse osmosis filter their water before they put it in their bottle, or else they've got fluoride and chlorine and minerals sometimes hard elements like chemical elements that are just from going through the pipes, or in the Caribbean, a lot of their water is really, it's come down on roofs and it's been collected. And so it's got a lot of metals, heavy metals in it. I didn't want any of that. And we don't have to put energy. We don't have to inject energy into creating good water. We get it right out of the ground.
Gotcha.
So water, and then, of course, yeast. We have a really robust American strain of yeast that we use that we don't talk about because it's like the one thing we don't tell everybody about how we make our rum. And then the final ingredient, just a tiny touch at bottling time, is a little bit of Rocky Mountain honeybee honey, raw honey that we turn into our own caramelized product. So we use an induction burner. We take honey from the honeybees around us, and we put it on an induction burner and turn it into almost this rock hard candy. And then we stir it back into the spirit right before we bottle. And what that does, so almost every rum maker uses a caramelized product of some kind, but a lot of people are buying, kind of a factory caramel. And it's part of what makes rum too sweet, and it's part of what makes people object to rum in general. Ours is a low glycemic index. It's a local product that we control. We know where it came from. It's not refined. And for 450 bottles of rum, like 750 milliliter bottles of rum, it's only it fits in both my cupped hands, like it's really a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
It takes the edge off the alcohol at 80 proof. It brings out a lot of the natural flavors of the barrel and the sugarcane. So it's pretty subtle, pretty hard to detect, but it's part of what makes our rum unique. So 4 ingredients, that's it, ever, and high quality ingredients. And just like if you were making bread or soup or any sort of product, the higher quality your ingredients, the yummier the final product is going to be.
All right, so you've got me, you've hooked me. I want to drink your rum, but I'm in North Carolina. I don't think you have it here, do you? We have one of these crazy states that probably is hard to sell into.
It's hard to sell into. It's not impossible. We are a special order item. So if a bartender or a liquor store owner said, I want to get some Montanya rum, They would place a special order with the state of North Carolina. The state of North Carolina would contact me, and I would send them rum. It's not the most economical way, and it's not the most, efficient method. But what is starting to really come down the pike, and I don't know enough about North Carolina specifically, I probably should have looked that up, is internet retail of spirits. And sometimes they can ship into control states and sometimes they can't. So I don't really know where North Carolina falls on that rule structure. But there are all these amazing online retailers cropping up who will ship you hard to find spirits right to your door. And we're finding that that's one of our biggest categories of growth in our company is internet retail. Because
I saw on your site, is it Drizzly? Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah, Drizzly's amazing because it geotag, just like you can tell it to use your location and it'll tell you liquor stores and restaurants all around you, mostly liquor stores on Drizzly, where you can get the product. And then if you say I want it delivered and there's a retailer near you that does alcohol delivery, which is also becoming way more common, then again, it just shows up on your doorstep. Pay for it online with a credit card. It's so easy.
That's awesome.
Like in New York City and San Francisco and Los Angeles and Chicago, that people don't even hardly go to their liquor stores anymore because it's just, it's a pain to park and it's a pain to get access and then walk with heavy bottles back to your car in the parking garage, whatever. So you just go online and you put it in your cart and you say I want it delivered and you pay for it and boom, there it is.
Now I see. Okay, so then you've also got like 7 countries. Like, how do you pick those countries, and how does that process work?
We have a partner. We have a couple of partners, but really we have one primary partner, and they buy our rum in bulk from FOB Crusted Butte, as they say, freight on board in Crusted Butte. And we ship it in bulk, which means unbottled in a barrel to specifically into Valencia, Spain. They grab it in Valencia, Spain, and they take it to this particular region of Spain called Jerez, which is Jerez. Jerez, Spain is where sherry is made, and there's a lot of infrastructure there. So they bottle it in a bottling facility in Jerez, and it looks just like Montanya rum would if you were in Colorado, except it has all the EU stamps and marks and, language requirements fulfilled. And then they sell it to, it's beautiful in Europe because you don't have to have a distributor interface partner. You can my partner can sell direct to a liquor store or to a bigger company that has 120 beautiful liquor stores around France or around Spain. And those are more of the deals that we've been doing, is with those customers who want a certain amount of rum every month or every 3 months delivered, and they're going to supply their entire set of beautiful stores like El Corte Inglés in Spain. Or so it's a relatively new relationship for us, only about a year and a half old, and it's taken a lot of work to kind of kick down the hurdles. They had to rent a warehouse to be able to hold the empty bottles and the full bottles, and that took some time getting certified with the federal government of Spain. But we've kicked down every hurdle so far, and we think that has potential to outgrow our U.S. market in the next 12 to 18 months.
That's awesome. What a cool story. What an amazing story. I mean, that's fascinating to me, just having the idea 4 months later, there you are. And did you know how to make rum before that?
Well, I'm from Maine, and every Mainer from a lobster fishing family has a lobster pot in their basement, or that they pull out twice a year and make live boiled Maine lobsters for all their friends. And so our first batches of rum were made in my lobster pot on our stovetop. It was hilarious, and I can't say it was good. I can't say that any of the early tastings were anybody getting really excited about how great Montanya rum was going to be. You need copper involved to attract sulfur and impurities out of a rum fermentation, because sugarcane, one of the byproducts of its fermentation is sulfur. And so it wasn't great, but I had some great mentors early on, at Peach Street Distillers, which was one of the first and most beautiful craft distilleries in Colorado. They were so helpful and supportive from day one, and answered those deep questions that nobody else in the world seemed to be able to answer. And so I've formed a lot of great partnerships with other companies that were ahead of me in line, like Leopold Brothers and Stranahan's Whiskey. The head distiller for Stranahan's back in the day has become a dear friend, and really, just mentored me through a lot of challenges over time. So I can't say that anybody at our operation is a master distiller trained at some institute, because that is really hard to access, and it doesn't exist. There's like one institute in Chicago, but we've done a lot of training, and we've attended a lot of trainings and seminars, and really over time educated ourselves a lot. I've met with barrel makers and come to understand the science and the art behind the barrel and that kind of stuff, but really self-taught.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to try Drizzly, and then I'm going to see if I can get some of your rum shipped to my house. I just really appreciate you taking the time to tell your story, and of course we appreciate your business at Schedulefly. And so Karen actually reached out to us, which I was so excited about, because I feel like the sugar folks down in Louisiana, we have enough customers now. I don't know them all, and I don't know who they all are. And so when I hear from someone like you, it just makes my day, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, we are such huge fans of what Schedulefly does. We have 23 employees and multiple shifts, and everybody needs to know who's where, when, and who to contact about what. And we all interface with the app and with the online on our computers all day, every day with Schedulefly. I'm sometimes in another town or another city, and I need to know who's at the tasting room right now so that I can ask them to do a tour for this VIP who just, called me and said, hey, I'm in town. And it's such a powerful tool for us. We couldn't survive without it, and we're so thankful for you guys helping us to be more efficient and capable. We use it as our event calendar, so everybody knows when we have live music or when we've got a big group of ski club people coming in or whatever. And we use it as our time clock for all of our labor. And I run 1,000 reports, a month out of it. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh man, that was really nice of you. I really appreciate that very much. I love hearing that.
You didn't ask me to say all that.
What's that?
You didn't ask me to say
all that.
No,
I didn't.
I
appreciate it. That's really cool of you. Well, listen, I got to get out there. I told you, when we were kind of communicating about this. I grew up in North Carolina. I've been here my whole life. I grew up skiing in the North Carolina mountains on, slush and ice and man-made snow, and started making my way out west in my teenage years, and obviously fell in love with the the mountains out there. So I go whenever I can. I've always wanted to go to Crested Butte, so I got to make this happen. This is I want to get out there. I've always wanted to be there, and gosh, it would be so much fun to hang out with you all. So
please do, because it's a spectacular place. We love to provide the red carpet treatment for some of our important partners, where we do, discounted hotel rooms in the lodges up on the mountain, and we can do, we love to purvey rum cocktails and great food and, tours and tastings, and we'd love to have you.
Count on it. Count on it. I'm going to keep my eye on it next year. I got my trip in this year. I went to Grand Targhee.
Nice.
It was sort of a last minute thing, and they've been getting dumped on like for several months, and so
finally
I had a great trip out there. So I'm probably done for the year this year. My wife is wonderful to let me take time and go with 3 young kids at home. But I don't think I'm going to ask twice. But next year, I'm going to try to make it happen. I really am. I would love to do it, and this just gives me all the more inspiration. So,
all right,
Karen,
we'll see
thank
you.
You bet. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you very much for the business. Tell your team that we love serving y'all and we appreciate it, and you guys are awesome. And just good luck. I'm inspired. I'm going to go get some of your rum somehow.
Awesome. Well, go to davidsonsliquors.com online if you can't find it through Drizzly. And
okay.
As far as I can tell, they ship all over the country, and they are a great customer of ours, and they've done a really good job with our products. So I'd love to encourage anyone in any state to go take a look at davidsonsliquors.com, and if they're looking for hard-to-find craft spirits.
davidsonsliquors.com. I'll be on it today. I appreciate it, Karen.
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.